Hello everyone and welcome to my latest Rust Quickie. In my previous Rust Quickie we have talked about so-called tuple-like structs where you define members of a structure without any associated name. Means when you want to access the individual members of a tuple-like struct you have to use indexes. And today I want to continue that discussion by introducing traditional structs to you, where the individual data members also can have names. So let's switch over to Visual Studio Code, where I want to explain that concept to you. Let's have a look on how you can work with structures in Rust. I'm defining here again a structure with the struct keyword. The name of that structure is developer, and now as you can see, each data member has a corresponding data type, and in addition to the data type, the data member also has a name. So this is already a huge difference to tuple-like structs that we have covered last week. So as you can see, our developer has a first name, it has a last name, we have an age and a flag if the developer is a coffee drinker or not. When you want to work with a structure in Rust, you have to instantiate that structure. I'm instantiating that structure here, so we are creating a new instance of the structure developer, and we store a reference to that instance in the local variable developer. And within that code block we also have to instantiate and initialize the individual members from that structure. When we go up, you see again we have 4 members with a first name, last name, age, and the flag coffee drinker. Means all those members must be initialized here accordingly. So as you can see, we set here the first name, we set the last name, we set the age of the developer, and that developer is also a coffee drinker. When you don't instantiate one of those members, you're also getting an error message by the Rust compiler. So when we try to compile that program now, you can see that we have a missing coffee drinker. So this is very, very important. When you instantiate a structure in Rust, you have to initialize every member of that structure. Otherwise, the Rust compiler just gives you an error message, as you can see here. So this is very, very important. So we have instantiated now that structure developer, and afterwards we can just use that structure to print out the individual elements. So as you can see, we can now reference the individual members by its name. Last week, when we have talked about tuple-like structs, we had to use indexes c.0, c.1, c.2, and so on. And here we can just reference the individual members by its name. Developer.first name, developer.last name, developer.age, and also developer.coffee drinker. So let's run that program now, and as you can see, our developer Klaus Aschenbrenner is 44 years old and he also likes coffee. When we look up again, you can see we have instantiated here that structure. By default, as you already know, variables in Rust are immutable, means you can't change them. So for example, when we try to change the age of our developer, we again get a compile time error by the Rust compiler. The Rust compiler just tells us that we can't that we can't change the age because our variable is not mutable. So if you want to change a member of a structure, it's also very, very important that you define that variable mutable with the mute keyword. So we have now a mutable variable, and therefore we are now able to also change the individual members. So when we try to run that now again, you can see now that Klaus Aschenbrenner is now 45-year-old because we have just incremented here the age that we have initially set to 44. So this is also very, very important when you are working with structures and you want to change the individual members at a later point in time. Like here, after the instantiation, the variable must be defined with the mute keyword so that it is mutable. I hope that you have learned today something new in Rust. We have covered today structures, and in my next Rust Quickie we will continue with that example, and I will show you there how we can also add additional functions to our structure. So currently our structure just defines data members, but as I have already said, a structure can also contain some functionality, so some functions, and you will see next week how we can add functions and functionalities to structs in Rust. So thanks for watching, and I'm already looking forward to see you next week again. Thank you.